Good evening and welcome to our daily devotional reading. A special welcome to the members of our make-believe monastery, e.g. those commenting and or subscribed. Especially to the newest members, we are really happy to have you here. A reminder for those who may have forgotten and information for those who are joining us for the first time or haven't been with us that long. We are reading through the collected works of Plato in 1 year. We will read about 4 pages a day. We are today at day 65, meaning only 300 to go. I do have a bit of commitment issues, so this is quite a challenge for me. Thank you for helping me to continue with this journey together. Now let's all, if you do have tea with you, this is a perfect time to take a sip. My tea is quite warm still. It's good, it's drinkable. And we can quiet down. Oh, it's very warm. Open our minds and our hearts. Turn inward. Not to ourselves, whatever that might be, if it be at all. But to that still small voice that's speaking from the void itself. And let's listen to Plato. Stranger. Strange, I should think so. See how by this reciprocation of opposites, the many-headed Sophist has compelled us, quite against our will, to admit the existence of not being. Theaetetus. Yes, indeed, I see. Stranger. The difficulty is how to define his art without falling into a contradiction. Theaetetus. How do you mean, and where does the danger lie? Stranger. When we say that he deceives us with an illusion, and that his art is illusory, do we mean that our soul is led by his art to think falsely? Or what do we mean? Theaetetus. There is nothing else to be said. Stranger. Again, false opinion is that form of opinion which thinks the opposite of the truth, which you assent. Theaetetus. Certainly. Stranger. You mean to say that false opinion thinks what is not? Theaetetus. Of course. Stranger. Do false opinion think that things which are not, or that in a certain sense they are? Theaetetus. Things that are not must be imagined to exist in a certain sense, if any degree of falsehood is to be possible. Stranger. And does not false opinion also think that things which most certainly exist do not exist at all? Theaetetus. Yes. Stranger. And here again is falsehood. Theaetetus. Falsehood, yes. Stranger. And in like manner a false proposition will be deemed to be one which asserts the non-existence of things which are, and the existence of things which are not. Theaetetus. There is no other way in which a false proposition can arise. Stranger. There is not. But the Sophists will deny these statements, and indeed how can any rational man assent to them, when the very expressions which we have just used were before acknowledged by us to be unutterable, unspeakable, indescribable, unthinkable? Do you see this point, Theaetetus? Theaetetus. Of course he will say that we are contradicting ourselves when we hazard the assertion that falsehoods exist in opinion and in words. And in maintaining this, we are compelled over and over again to assert being of not being, which we admitted just now to be an utter impossibility. Stranger. How well you remember, and now it is high time to hold a consultation as to what we ought to do about the Sophist. For if we persist in looking for him in the class of false workers and magicians, you see that their handles of objection and the difficulties which will arise are very numerous and obvious. Theaetetus. They are indeed. Stranger. We have gone through but a very small portion of them, and they are really infinite. Theaetetus. If that is the case, we cannot possibly catch the Sophist. Stranger. Shall we then be so faint-hearted as to give up on him? As to give him up? Certainly not, I should say, if we can get the slightest hold of him. Stranger. Will you then forgive me, and, as your words imply, not be altogether displeased, if I flinch a little from a grasp of such a sturdy argument? Theaetetus. To be sure I will. Stranger. I have a yet more urgent request to make. Theaetetus. Which is? Stranger. That you will promise not to regard me as a parasite. Patricide, I think it should be. Theaetetus. And why? Because in self-defense I must test the philosophy of my father Parmenides, and try to prove by main force that in a certain sense not being is, and that being, on the other hand, is not. Theaetetus. Some attempt of the kind is clearly needed. Stranger. Yes, a blind man, as they say, might see that. And unless these questions are decided in one way or another, no one, when he speaks of false words or false opinions or idols or images or imitations or appearances or about the arts which are concerned with them, can avoid falling into ridiculous contradictions. Theaetetus. Most true. Stranger. And therefore I must venture to lay hands on my father's argument, For if I am to be over scrupulous, I shall have to give the matter up. Theaetetus, nothing in the world should ever induce us to do so. Stranger, I have a third little request which I wish to make. Theaetetus, what is it? Stranger, you heard me say that I have always felt and still feel that I have no heart for this argument. Theaetetus, I did. Stranger, I tremble at the thought of what I have said, and expect that you will deem me mad when you hear of my sudden changes and shiftings. Let me therefore observe that I am examining the question entirely out of regard for you. Theaetetus, there is no reason for you to fear that I shall impute any impropriety to you if you attempt this refutation and proof. Take heart, therefore, and proceed. Stranger, and where shall I begin the perilous enterprise? I think that the road which I must take is Theaetetus, which? Let me hear. Stranger, I think that we had better, first of all, consider the points which at present are regarded as self-evident, lest we may have fallen into some confusion, and be too ready to assent to one another, fancying that we are quite clear about them. Theaetetus, say more distinctly what you mean. Oopsie-daisy. I think that Parmenides and all ever yet undertook to determine the number and nature of existences talk to us in rather a light and easy strain. Theaetetus, how? As if we had been children, to whom they repeated each his own myth, or story. One said that there were 3 principles, and that at one time there was war between certain of them, and then again there was peace, and they were married and begat children, and brought them up, and another spoke of 2 principles, a moist and a dry, or a hot and a cold, and made them marry and cohabit. The Eleatics, however, in our part of the world, say that all things are many in name, but in nature one. This is their mythos, which goes back to Xenophanes and even older. Then there are Ionians, and in more recent times Sicilian muses, who have arrived at the conclusion that to unite the two principles is safer, and to say that being is one and many, and that these are held together by enmity and friendship, ever parting, ever meeting, as the severer muses assert, while the gentler ones do not insist on the perpetual strife and peace, but admit a relaxation and alteration of them. Peace and unity sometimes prevailing under the sway of Aphrodite, and then again plurality and war by reason of the principle of strife. Whether any of them spoke the truth at all, this is hard to determine. Besides, antiquity and famous men should have reverence, and not be liable to accusation so serious. Yet one thing may be said of them without offense. Theotatus. What thing? Stranger. That they went on their several ways, disdaining to notice people like ourselves. They did not care whether they took us with them or left us behind them. How do you mean? I mean to say that when they talk of one, two, or more elements, which are or have become or are becoming, or again of heat mingling with cold, assuming in some other part of their work separation and mixture. Tell me, Theotatus, do you understand what they mean by these expressions? When I was a younger man, I used to fancy that I understood quite well what was meant by the term not being, which is our present subject of dispute. And now you see that in what a fix we are about it. I see. And very likely we have been getting into the same perplexity about being, and yet may fancy that when anybody utters the word, we understand him quite easily, although we do not know about not being. But we may be equally ignorant of both. I dare say. And the same may be said of all the terms just mentioned. True. The consideration of most of them may be deferred, but we had better now discuss the chief captain and leader of them. The other translation has the most fundamental and most important expression. Theotatus. Of what are you speaking? You clearly think that we must first investigate what people mean by the word being. Consciousness. On that cliffhanger, thus far our scripture of the evening. There's a song in my head, a song that one of the most formidable women I've ever met Holly brought to our interaction. And our interaction, I mean, with the group of sisters. Do not let your spirit wane. Do not let your heart be dismayed. It's here by some random disclosure of grace. Do not let your spirit wane. And I myself can see no link between that and the text, but it was in my mind, so I thought I would share it. Nothing in the world should induce us to give up the argument is stated in this text, but let me rather say the search. Because I also wrote thinking in words, and it's been a theme not only of this last couple of days, but throughout. If thinking in words is indeed our best way to think. I listened to another prophetic vision of mine. I saw that Alex O'Connor will release a video. Oh, but that's not so prophetic. On panpsychism. Anyone could have predicted that. And how do we know consciousness? The only way we really know it is by being conscious. Is there any way to really know anything other than that? By participating in it. Most of what I wrote I cannot read. I have a course waiting for me on the pre-Socratics, which I should make time to do. I've already listened to the course. I just need to read the books and do the exam. I have the books. I've read one of the books. It would be interesting. I never managed to buy Emily Wilson. Is it Emily Wilson's translation of? Oh my word! Now the story of Troy. The bookshop had a TikTok queue, and I was like, nah, I ain't gonna do that. So I didn't buy the book, unfortunately, of Homer. I wanted to buy both, but I bought neither. But I do want to throw myself into the Greeks a little bit more, and I do have some other resources. I appreciated the strangers expression of the fact that he is aware of that he is participating in a performative contradiction, that he says he does not dare to speak of these things and yet he does. I think very few people are really capable of not actually being in some way in performative contradictions. For instance, this has been on my mind a while and I don't think I've said it yet. Whoopsie daisy. I did mention that I was reading these two people, although a different book of hers, on my pilgrimage, and that she is more the true pessimist than him. And why I think so is because he gave up coffee and alcohol and cigarettes to extend his life with 10 years, while stating that life is not worth living. She literally starved herself. She is the true pessimist. In acts and not only in words. Put it back later. I would not recommend that. The size of my ass is proof enough that I am not a pessimist and I'm in no way starving myself, and I do not, please do not do that. On purpose. Or as long as you do have food. And I think maybe the wisest way to live is to have some performative contradictions in our lives. Or maybe we just continually have to re-examine ourselves, our words and our actions, and see to what extent they align and to what extent they don't. In many ways we do not know what is. So we shouldn't be too hard on ourselves, right? If we don't act according. I think I will leave it there for today. I also have made notes from Folly's post. I just want to mention, which is not written there, but it's something that comes to mind because he wrote on Nietzsche on Socrates. And do be mindful of the fact that in this dialogue, Socrates is silent. He's witnessing these discussions because here in this dialogue, Plato is interacting with his other great influence, Parmenides, through the Eleatic stranger, and not his hero Socrates. So we should not, I think, in any way take any of this as Socratic. It is Plato, but Plato searching more than Plato proclaiming, I would like to think. And because of these dialogues written down, we are in the great good fortune of being able to search with him. And we shall do so again tomorrow. Until then, I hope you rest well, you are well, you live well, and may the spirit of Sophia be with you.